So we'll get underway. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Oakland Mills Community Association Village Board Meeting. Thank you for joining us. We're going to get started with a couple of administrative matters. The first is to approve our minutes from the November 8th, 2022 board meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Motion from Ginny. I have a second from Warren. Any discussion of those minutes? Okay, all in favor of approving? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 0. Okay, next is a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's board meeting. Is there a motion to approve? I have a motion from Warren. I think I have a second from Lynn. Any discussion of tonight's agenda? Okay, all in favor of approving tonight's agenda? 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 0. We are underway. And the first thing we'll start with is resident remarks. If you would like to make remarks to the board, you have up to 3 minutes to make remarks. I'll start my little timer. Just put your hand up or use the hand raise feature on Zoom. And I will call on you in the order that I see the hands go up as I try to find my timer here. I've got you, Paul. I know you're first. Okay. And then I see Judy. Okay. Hang on 1 sec, Paul. I'm looking for my timer app here. There it is.
Okay.
All right, 3 minutes. Go ahead.
It came to my attention what's going on with the state delegation, and I'm sure that this is a topic that John's already been looking at, where they want to switch from all elected folks on the Board of Education to 2 appointed folks by the county executive. I find that really disingenuous on the Democrats' part. Here they're bashing the Republicans because we don't have fair elections, et cetera, et cetera. And they want folks to be appointed rather than elected. We made a recent change in 2019 for 5 folks for the Board of Elections from the 5 councilmanic districts and 2 at large. And that's basically just started. And the verbal diarrhea that I hear is, well, the folks are at loggerheads. Well, how could they be at loggerheads when this hasn't even been put in place? I read the article in the Baltimore Sun, and basically, I forget the lady who's retiring. She said, the delegation tells us of any changes that they're proposing, and this was never brought up. So I would just like to end this by saying, what problem is Howard County trying to solve on its Board of Education other than creating more controversy by having 2 people appointed by the county executive? So thank you very much for hearing me out.
Thank you, Paul. If you're wondering, Abby and I weren't laughing at you, we were laughing with you, because we'll talk about this a little later under new business, but this was the whole topic of discussion for 45 minutes at the education meeting. And Abby and I both said, this seems like a solution looking for a problem.
Agreed.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Okay, I think I had Judy next, and then was there anyone else? I didn't see any other hands. All right, go ahead, Judy.
Okay, this is a very grassroots thing that might have been addressed. I would like to discuss that there is no street light at the end of Farewell onto Oakland Mills Road, and we have that raised pedestrian walkway. And when I rode up and down one day on Oakland Mills Road, Farewell was the only road that intersected with Oakland Mills Road that had no light at all. Now today, Steve thought that he saw them digging. Maybe they were digging up and down to install the lighting, but I just wanted it to be in the minutes that was a concern I had, because it's dangerous to cross there at night with no light. That's it.
So I know something about that.
Oh, boy.
BGE is basically in charge of all the public streetlights. That's why when they're out, you report them to BGE, not See Click Fix. I know that the traffic division is part of the
Mhm.
resurfacing and relining and upgrades to Oakland Mills Road, had a request in for a street light at that crosswalk. I actually sent something to Chris a
Right.
few weeks ago, seeing if there was an update. I haven't heard back from him. But I know it's something that the county was seeking there, and then they were waiting for the response from BGE about, whether, where, and when they would place the street light. So it is on the radar.
Okay, I know, and you had responded to me that they hadn't responded to you.
Yeah.
So thank you. I just think it's very strange that that is the only road that does not have a light. So thanks.
And I actually thought that all the crosswalks had to have street lights. For example, when they put the one by the Stevens Forest Neighborhood Center, they put a street light there immediately. There had never
Right.
been one before. So I was surprised to see that as well. But
Yeah,
I know that it's been requested of
Yeah.
BGE.
Yeah, I don't know if Farewell ever had a light. They should have, because it's a main road that goes, through Oakland Mills. But okay, thank you. I
Sure.
appreciate it.
Okay, and then Al, we have a third one, Alex.
Yes, hi. My name's Alex Hakimian, live in Oakland Mills. And once again, I'm pleased that our village board will be considering a letter to the county that continues to be so supportive of HOAs in our community. It's a great step forward and in addressing the infrastructure challenges of our HOAs. So thanks again for your continuing support.
Okay, thank you, Alex. All right, and I believe that was all the hands I saw. So we're going to move into new business. First item on new business is Ginny.
Jonathan, somebody's raising their hand, waving.
Oh, I don't see anything. Who's
Okay.
raising their hand?
That's me, Phyllis Gasson.
Oh.
I can't find a hand raise.
I'm sorry, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, my issue is the traffic circle at Stevens Forest and Farewell, the danger of that circle there. It is the last week a car jumped a curb. I'm at the corner. Car jumped a curb, went down the sidewalk, hit a sign pole, hit a utility pole, hit a tree. Part of that car is still in the tree, and the tree landed on the third neighbor's house lawn. So it's a very dangerous circle. Something needs to be done, either a speed camera or speed bumps. And I understood from the beginning of the circle, we couldn't do speed bumps because it was no emergency, but maybe that would be reconsidered, or some kind of a sign or lighted reflective something in the approach, on the approach of the traffic signal, the traffic circle, because cars hit it constantly. And again, if myself, my neighbors, their children were on their lawn at any given day, a dog walker, a jogger, a biker will one day is going to get hurt or killed on that circle because people can't see it until it's too late.
Thank you. Yes, we agree. In fact, the village board is on record several times with the county about that circle and making it more visible, and doing something to lower the speed of approach, especially coming southbound down the hill on Stevens Forest Road. And I think we probably have yet another follow-up letter in the works. I'll work with Warren on that. I know we've weighed in on that several times with the county, with suggestions or just requests to come out and reassess it, because it is an issue. Some of that issue is just the rate of speed at which people travel on Stevens Forest Road, period, circle or no circle. Another suggestion I would have, and obviously the village board is going to keep up on it. We're going to keep weighing in, but if you as a resident and neighboring residents could also take the time and contact the county, and especially not just the county bureaucrats, but also the elected officials, because you have the firsthand experience. You live there and witness everything. It certainly can't hurt to have more voices. Not that the county just gets stuff from the village board and says, it's just 6 people complaining, but I think if they hear it from more than just us, it certainly can't hurt, and hopefully it would help stress the urgency of the situation there.
Okay, all right, thank you. I have several pictures to send from that incident. Okay.
Yes, Ginny actually shared them with us via email, and I sent a similar reply back saying, yes, agree.
Mhm.
This is an issue. It's been an issue. We're on record with it. Maybe we need to we might need more people to start going on record, especially the closest neighbors to the circle. Because you're seeing it and experiencing it every day.
Yes.
And there's some things, the county does traffic studies and stuff, but basically it means putting out a strip and, measuring vehicles over a certain period of time. Well, they might get some ideas of speed and volume, but putting out those strips doesn't tell you how crazy people are driving or how they're swerving in and out of lanes or other things that you see going on there.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Even the cell phones, I've almost gotten T-boned. I don't challenge the circle. So when I'm coming through and they're coming south on Stevens Forest, I'll just stop because they're going to keep going. They're on their phone. I see it. Seniors, people on their phone, people turn around looking at the kids in the back. I see it all. As long as their window is intended, I look right in their car and see they're totally distracted and they're surprised. They look at me like their eyes pop right ahead, like, oh, shoot, where'd you come from? They're not even paying attention to the circle.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Ginny?
I wonder if the study could also include looking at something on Phyllis's property like they did with Bag. I'm not sure that would do any good because as you say, the real problem is either people not even knowing there's a circle there and they're speeding at the village center or not paying attention. And somehow we got to deal with that part of the area. But I'm just wondering if there's anything they can come up with on her property like they did for Boggs' property across the road.
Those pylons, yeah.
I think the difference is people were coming up Farewell and turning on his property to get onto Stevens Forest Road, running over his property. Here, they're coming pretty fast. So I don't know if there's anything that can do any good, but.
And actually, this summer, Warren, Bill, and I spent about a half hour out there, standing on all 4 corners, standing in the circle, watching what was going on. And I would say, I hate to put a percent on it, but let's just say the vast majority of what we saw happen when someone didn't use the circle appropriately was, I guess, for lack of a better term, driver error. Not yielding when they should have yielded, approaching it too quickly, all kinds of things. And yeah, maybe something that makes it more apparent that the circle is coming, would help with some of that. And we have made those suggestions, lighted signs, reflective posts, all kinds of things that would make it more visible. Absolutely.
Right, we just need to get action from the county. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and don't stand in the circle, you, Bill and Warren. That's not safe, okay?
No, it's not.
No, it's not. No one accused us of being the smartest 3 people in the village.
Oh, oh.
All right. I think that I've now got everyone. Oh, now there's another hand, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you so much. I'm Pat Thomas, and I just want to say, I've lived in Columbia since 1972, and Oakland Mills was my home until the other villages were built. So I've just seen it grow and grow and grow. But I want to thank you so much for taking an interest in what's happening with the condo and HOA associations, especially around the infrastructure issues, because they're all getting older. And we know as things get older, it's more expensive to take care of. And a lot of them are really struggling under what they have to do. So thank you so much for being the board that I've always known.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Does anyone else want to say something really nice? We'll take extra time. No, okay. All right. So now we'll move into new business. We have a couple of topics on new business. The first is the CA leadership status. As I know, members of the board are aware, and some in our audience may be aware, there has been a lot of controversy lately, I guess, for lack of a better term. Discussion is a better way to put it, about what's happening at the top of CA. And there have been requests that we discuss this this on the agenda. So we will discuss it under new business, allow member boards to ask any questions or state what they've observed. One thing I will ask, because there's been a lot out there. There's been a lot out there in social media. There's been a lot said. I would request to, stick to any facts as we know them. So if we're going to state something as fact, make sure you have the source material to back it up. Blogs are not facts, because I've read about 5 different blogs and they all say something different. And I don't know that any of them are, well-sourced reporters. Obviously, I hope this doesn't need to say here, but let's also be professional, because unfortunately, over the past week or so, I've also seen a lot of name calling and other things that we just don't need to do here in a professional conversation about the leadership of the largest HOA in the country and our Columbia Association that we're all, I guess, not necessarily members of, but that we're all a part of. So with those remarks, I'm going to open it up for discussion, and I see Lynn already has a hand raised, so go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah, I just want to, I'm not so much for a discussion, I just would ask a question, and actually a couple of questions. And as you said, Jonathan, we've heard a lot. There have been blogs, there have been a lot of, things on Facebook, on different situations of people saying a lot of stuff, but what we haven't actually heard from is the CA board itself. And so we know the perspective of a lot of people, but we don't know the perspective of the CA board. And so I understand it's a personnel issue. I understand that there are legal constraints, but just in order to kind of give a fair balance, all we're hearing is from one side. And to the degree that you are able to do it, can you share with us from the CA perspective just what's going on, what the status is now, what the concerns are? Just asking you, Jenny.
If you mean status, there's been no change. Any
No
place.
change.
So, I don't know what, I don't read all these blogs. The only way to keep your sanity. I have heard about some where it's like, good grief, where did they get that information? Also, in some cases, if it had to do with, I'm trying to figure out how to handle this, stuff that should have been confidential that isn't, or, that's wow. So there has been no change. I don't know what you're hearing and what change you're thinking may have occurred, but there has been no change.
So no decision has been made on the part of the CA board.
Correct.
Okay. And then.
I cannot talk about anything else in terms of anything that's supposed to be employee personnel, contracts.
I get that. I'm not asking for that. I was just asking for what the status is now. And at what point would the CA board inform all of us lien payers as to what's going on with CA? When is that all revealed?
Reveal what?
If there's a decision, I mean, do we just get it as a fait accompli, or do we hear more about what the concerns are? Are there concerns, and how are those reconciled against the? I did watch the last meeting, so I was there watching it, and the outpouring of support for Lakey from the CA staff, from community organizations, and how is the CA board reconciling that with what the other side of it is that we're hearing rumors about? Just wondering, we all appreciated how CA members all ran on a platform of transparency, and this is seeming pretty opaque. The opposite of transparency.
So Lynn, and actually, can I back it up a step, because we're now talking and asking questions as if there's a decision to be made. And my understanding is that the president has a 4-year contract, and she's about 1.5 years through that 4-year contract. So I'd actually like to back it up a couple of steps to, what started this, which was a question she raised in a board meeting, and then a response from the CA board chair indicating he wasn't aware of what she was talking about, and then it all went from there. But if we start from that point, I guess the question I have is, is there a decision to be made? Are we all talking about a decision that doesn't even have to be made because she has a 4-year contract? Ginny, that one was for you, because we don't know the we don't you know we don't know terms or anything other than 4-year contract. But you know, when I hear 4-year contract, I think, well, why are we talking about a decision? It's not up for renewal or anything.
Well, it's more complicated than that in terms of things that are complaints that have been. See, this is the problem. It's and I'm not talking about stuff I've done. I'm talking about things that where if a board's been told, well, let me put it this way. The board, and I don't think this is confidential, is not allowed to talk for the last year with department heads on a one-on-one. And the board is not allowed to meet with Lakey on a one-on-one for a long time. So that's about all I want to say in terms of which things that you want to resolve, because in order to function, the board sets policy, correct? Does anybody disagree with that? You set policy for Oakland Mills, correct? Okay, but you want to do it as a team, right? The board works with Sandy and the staff to implement that policy, actually make changes to it when the staff says, hello, that was a great idea, but it isn't workable or whatever. It's an exchange, correct? And that's how you want to do things when you run Oakland Mills, somebody else runs Long Reach. That's how you want to function. I personally believe that's the way CA should also function. So there should be communication, there should be openness, there should be access. It should be a relationship where you can discuss things and communicate and make changes, etc. Involve the residents, and I don't think the board has not involved residents and shared with you. I've been trying to do it all year long, shared with you what's been happening and what's your opinion, etc. Although I did get, the CEO did give me a hard time about sharing the, and you heard that, Lynn, about sharing the CA voting policy that she had implemented last year. And I got, why did you share that with the board? And they meant me and the Oakland Mills Village Board. Well, because I want to get your opinion. And that's a question I have for you later, whether you got anything from CA staff so that you can react. So there's some, things, and that's about all I'd like to say tonight. Personnel, people, doing things that really should not be discussed in public and should be done. Otherwise, you get sued. And I don't think you want us or anybody sued. At least I hope not. Now, why some people choose to do things in public that you wouldn't normally expect, I have no idea. No idea. Well, that's, you can figure the motivation yourself. You're all very bright people. Okay.
Can I ask one more question? And this isn't,
Sure.
I don't think asking you to reveal anything, but is there any thought with the CA board and the staff, if there is this disconnect between is there a thought to developing some sort of a mediation, an intervention? That could be like a yes or no, or maybe, or not yet.
I think you have to maybe not assume, but and maybe not trust that the board wants to function for the benefit of the residents. Well, actually, the lien payers too. There are businesses that are lien payers as well. And to provide the best services, all the things that are in our strategic plan, and I won't list them all, but we believed in that. We took 2 years to create it with a lot of public input, by the way, you know that. And that's the way we function, and we will continue to. And everything that needs to be done on anything, any issue, whatever it is, I assure you will, well, you can believe it or not, will involve whatever is appropriate. Now, I know you're not getting, I'm trying to really avoid being sued, okay?
No, I understand. I mean, I understand you have a lot of constraints on what you can share with us, but it's just very, very helpful to hear from our CA rep as a counter to what we're hearing from everybody else who is getting on the blogosphere. So thank you.
Yeah, I think, you know, Harper's Choice changed the letter. There's been no other letters, you know, there was the Owen Brown and Hickory, no, Owen Brown and Harper's, no, wait a minute. Owen Brown Wild Lake letter, I think were identical. And then other than that, Harper's Choice changed it to more something else, did not have the same type of letter. Why you, if you were, well, how you, if you were running an organization, Lynn, Smithsonian, okay? How would you handle things as opposed to?
Yeah, it was a little bit different because I had 12 people that were my staff, but when I had a personnel action against one of them or a personnel issue, it wasn't just me. I had the other people on my management team. I had the people above me. I had the people above them, and ultimately the secretary of the Smithsonian. So with the CA board, it's a little different because it's just the CA board, you know, and they're answerable in a way to lien payers in a way, but really they're pretty autonomous. You are pretty autonomous. So it's a little different because there's
No, I think we are answerable. I don't think anybody should debate that to the lien payers.
Oh, you are. Yeah, I said you are
Yeah,
answerable to the lien
And
payers.
we understand, a lot of us understand that and take that quite seriously, including why some of us ran again in terms of protecting the open space. And there's still are problems in that area anytime you want to talk about it. So yeah, I think just let's wait a little bit and see what happens.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you doing this.
No, I appreciate you, instead of guys responding to blogs or jumping on something you ask. I mean, we talked a little bit about it last time, but I appreciate this conversation even more. And thank you all and good night. No.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Okay.
So did anyone else want to say anything or ask anything? Right. So, you know, I have been asked by residents whether the Oakland Mills Village Board is going to take a position, and my answer has been, I don't know. I'm just one person out of 6. The chair doesn't have any more votes than anyone else on the board. So I could give you my personal opinion, but 5 people could disagree with me, or 5 people could agree with me, or it could be 3-3, who knows? And I don't know if we're going to choose to bring this back as old business and take any sort of position next time. But, you know, personally, you know, the message I would put out is, you know, something like this, especially in a city, well, I guess we're not a city, but we are a city, right? We're a city of about 100,000 people, even though we're not an incorporated municipality. We would be the 2nd largest city in Maryland. You know, it's not good for the residents, right? It creates a lot of stress. It creates a lot of debate. It you know, literally pits people against each other. We see people, you know, fighting it out over social media. I doubt they would fight it out in the streets, but there are a lot of keyboard warriors out there, and it's, you know, it becomes unbecoming for our city. And you know, as the 2nd largest city in the state, it's getting attention just beyond the little Columbia bubble we all live in. So you know, I think the best thing, I don't know what the best ultimate outcome for Columbia is because I don't have all the details either. But I think in the short run, as we wait and see what happens, as Lynn suggested, mediation, I think there are I think there are things to be done that could, bring this to a better, more positive resolution than, threats of lawsuits or everyone running to get lawyers or sort of letting it fester and hoping it'll go away because it doesn't seem to be going away. If CA was worried about attendance at meetings, I think it's done wonders for increasing attendance at meetings, but I don't think it's done it for the right reason. Not all publicity is good publicity, and I think for the sake of Columbia, I don't have the solution. But I really think everyone, at the leadership level at CA, the members of the board, the president and CEO really, need to get together, maybe with that independent third party and try to put some differences aside and work to a solution. And like I said, I think that's for the good of the community. It's perfectly fine to disagree. I actually appreciate that we have 10 people on the CA board and you're not all unanimous on everything, because if you were, then do we really have any diversity of thought and voice? But I also think we need to find, some mutually respectful way of working through all this, so that it's not blog material going forward. I'd rather see blogs on the legislation we're about to talk about than on who's on what side of the CA controversy. So that's just my 2 cents on the issue.
Well said, Jonathan. I agree totally with what you said. And I think our best plan, from my viewpoint right now, is that we have kind of a wait and see stance. And if it comes up at our next meeting, we'll see what happens in the interim.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I agree with what you said too, Jonathan, and I wouldn't make an assumption that that doesn't mean that that's not being done or anything like that. But it's a difference of how you handle personnel matters, whether you do it in the open and have a, whatever, or you do what you're supposed to do as a supervisor and policy maker, and how you're supposed to handle things professionally and legally.
Right. Bill?
Just real quick, my personal opinion is that it's a personnel matter between the CA CEO and then the board of directors of CA. It's unfortunate that part of it became public. I think that makes it more difficult in the long run to resolve things. And personally, I want the residents and members of OMCA to have confidence in our board that we respect that it is a private personnel matter within CA, because I want our residents to have confidence in our board that when there are personnel matters, that it stays within CA. And as we have in our agenda tonight, at the end of our open meeting, we have a closed meeting to discuss personnel issues. And I want all of our OMCA members to have confidence in us that that's where we keep it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Bill. Okay, anything else on that topic?
It's a good point.
All right, we're going to move on to the next piece of new business, and hopefully everyone has been able to take a look at the link Sandy distributed. If not, I can bring it out. But there are 2 pieces of local legislation proposed by the state delegation that would affect. That's not the right one. That's the budget. Were you trying to share the legislation? You don't have to share it now. I think we can talk through it. So there are 2 pieces of local legislation proposed by the delegation that I wanted to bring up under new business. And I'm actually going to start with the one that Paul raised in Speak Out, because this will allow me to forego the Education Committee report at the end. One would, so first of all, it's actually the state that has a lot of say in the makeup of the county boards of education. So the state actually determines things like the size of the Board of Education, how members are elected, et cetera. And the local delegation to Howard County is proposing legislation that would substantially change how the Howard County Board of Education gets selected. So currently, the Board of Education has 7 members. 5 are selected by Councilmatic District. So here in Oakland Mills, our schools fall in District 2, which is represented by Antonia Watts, but they also, the attendance area spills into District 3, which is represented by Jolene Mosley. So that's 5 of the seats. And then 2 seats are at-large seats, and that's the election we just had, where Jackie McCoy and Li Feng Chen were just elected to the at-large seats. The seats are staggered, so the at-large seats are selected. We're selected now, and then in 2 years, the councilmatic seats would be selected, and every 2 years you alternate. They're also serving 4-year terms. What the state delegation wants to do is change that so that instead of electing by councilmatic district, we would elect by state senate district or portion thereof that falls into Howard County, because some of them do cross county lines into other counties. That would be how we got 5 members. And then the other 2 members would be appointed by the county executive, a list of 3 to 5 candidates offered by the Howard County state delegation. So basically, two members would not be directly elected by the residents of Howard County at large. Their at-large seats would be appointed by the county executive from a list provided by our delegation. So I know we're just introducing this tonight. We'll talk about whether we're forming a position and finalizing that position under old business, but we can have a little discussion now. And I just wanted to let you know that the Education Committee did discuss it. The attendees at the Education Committee tonight, it's not always parents with kids in the system, but tonight it happened to be five people with kids currently in the system who are really up to speed on these matters. And the consensus was, we don't support this. As I mentioned earlier, Abby and I said the exact same thing. It seems like a solution, looking for a problem. And there was a lot of other discussion about, why we're not supporting it, kind of de-democratizing part of it by, taking the 2 at-large seats out of the hands of the voters and putting them in the hands of people we vote for. But, the people who go on the board themselves would be indirectly elected by us, not directly by us. And then there was also a lot of concern about just doing it by state senate district. Would that lessen the chances of getting representation that knows Oakland Mills well, because the boundaries are drawn differently than the councilmatic districts? And it was hard to tell. We were also trying to figure out whether that would make for unequal representation, because while some state senate districts fall entirely within Howard County, others spill into other counties, and if the state senate is districted in a way that people get kind of relatively equal distribution across the state, well, once you throw a county line through it, that might mean that this district is putting X votes to one candidate, while this district is putting Y votes to one candidate, and are we all getting basically the same bang for the buck that we do it? But even we didn't know that, because we couldn't even find the data to figure that out. But putting all that aside, the other thing we said was, Board of Education is usually so far down the ballot that unless you're really involved in education issues, you're probably not sure who you want to vote for, and you're asking your neighbor who has kids or something like that. And the question we had was, why add additional and unnecessary confusion to the election process, where now if you're in, I'll just pick 9A, if you're in Senate District 9A, right now you're voting for a member of the Howard County Board of Education. Unless you're in 9A on the Montgomery County side, then this has nothing to do with you, and you still vote for your Montgomery County Board of Education the same way you always have, however they do it at Montgomery County. It just seems to add confusion, among the electorate to these down ballot races by using these, artificial state senate boundaries that aren't fully contained within a county, when we have a system right now that gets us the same, 5 non-at-large representatives, but they're elected from districts that align, perfectly with our councilmatic districts, or are contained entirely with the county, and are probably easier to grasp, because people are probably more likely to know who their county council person is, and who they're voting for county council, and what council district 5 is versus what council district 1 is versus state senate 9A, 9B, 12, 13, et cetera. So anyway, that was the consensus. This is new business, so we don't take a position tonight. We take a position at the next meeting. I think the hearing on this is is December 14th. So that's where we were on that one. Or any questions or comments on that one before we move to the next one that affects us? Lynn? And then Ginny?
Yeah, was there any, if it's a solution looking for a problem, is there any speculation about what problem this was meant to address? Why this now?
There's speculation, but I don't know whether any of it is correct. You know,
Right.
there's
You
speculation that, you know,
Have
there's
an opinion about what might be.
I mean, there's speculation that there's, you know, political motivation to ensure that a Board of Education leans a certain way. There's speculation that because of the blueprint for Maryland, you know, the state just wants more control over what's happening in the local boards of education, since the local boards are going to get more of the state's money. You know, should that money start flowing?
Okay,
I don't know.
okay. Well, those are two possible causes.
Yeah. I think Ginny was next and then Bill.
Sorry. The only district I think right now is 9 that's outside of Howard County, because they brought Baltimore County doesn't have, you know, that they brought that back into Howard County, District 12. And so 12, 13, I believe, according to Terry Hill, are all in Howard County. It's 9 that's, how do you deal with that issue that you just raised? I think the other thing is the senators in those districts recommend one person each, right? That's 3, but that isn't it the county executive that then picks 2 of the 3, not the state?
So I don't know exactly how the nomination process would go. So the voters would elect 5 representatives by state Senate district. The nominee list would come from the delegation. I don't know how the delegation would come up with that list, but that list would then go to the county executive. The
Right.
list would have a minimum of 3 and I think a maximum of 5 numbers, and the county executive would pick 2. But I read the law and I don't think it you know, clearly defines, you know, the specifics of how they come up with this, other than saying there will be a list of nominees, it will be this size, and then the county executive picks.
Yeah, so it's a county executive is what I'm saying, not the
Right.
governor. It used, at one point it was the governor,
Mhm.
a long time ago. But I guess the 5, I'm a little unclear on the 5 that are elected by Senate districts. We're allowing one district to have 2, another district to have 2, and another one only 1, I guess. Is that it?
You know, I had the legislation up earlier during the
Okay, but
during the meeting, and
Yeah,
it wasn't clear.
I think the bottom line is, I agree, what's the problem? And it seems some people feel that school board isn't doing what they want. So the thing is to combine it with appointed people. Then the other issue is, do we want an independent school board, or do you want what happened a long time ago? It was all appointed by politicians. So how do you want it? And this is a hybrid, true. And then how would it be fair? You've raised really good questions
Mhm.
about that. And what are you trying to achieve? Other than there are people that just don't like a couple of things, the decisions, but also who's sitting on there.
Yeah.
They want more something, and they feel it's not happening through the election process. So we're going to change it. Do you
And-
accept election results or you don't is one of the questions, I think. No, I don't know.
And I'm even having trouble figuring out the districts, because Ginny, you said you think that 12 and 13 are entirely within Howard County. The way the legislation is written, it says one member from the singular state senatorial district wholly contained within Howard County, elected from the voters of that district. So that would indicate to me that they're saying there's only one senatorial district that's entirely within Howard County. And then it says one member from that portion within Howard County of each state senatorial district that is partially contained within Howard County, elected by the voters of the district within Howard County. So without any other numbers, what that indicates to me is that there are 4 districts that are at least partially in Howard County, but I don't know how much in Howard County, and one that's entirely within, which makes me wonder, well, then how equal is the representation? If one whole state Senate district is entirely within Howard County, they get 1, and then all these partial districts get 1, then is that really, anything close to equal representation the way we theoretically get with the council districts that, should be more evenly divided among just the population of Howard County?
Well, let's check this out because we were with Ethel Hill, some of the CA board members, because we put this on our agenda for, what is it, December 10th, I think, that's a Thursday, because we are very concerned about this issue. We also put Jen Teresa's bill on the agenda as well for the CA board. But Terry said, it used to be Eric Ebersol was the single member district in Baltimore County. It's now a completely Howard County district, which is Jessica, Kerry, Senator Lamb is the senator, and I can't think of who the third delegate would be. And Guy Cazone's has always been an internal district. No, it wasn't actually. It was part of Laurel at one point, but it has been internal district for a while. And then there's Katie Fry Hester, which is a single member district with Courtney Watson, 9A, and then there's 9B, which is mostly Howard County. It used to be Carroll County. I guess it's a little bit of Montgomery now. So it's confusing. Where the others are completely within Howard County. We all understand councilmatic districts, whether we like districting or we prefer it large, it doesn't matter, but we all understand it. So, and the people decide. There's a difference. Is people decide. Anybody can run in that district, but the people decide. This changes it, and it's got, I don't understand the reason for doing it.
Okay, Warren?
So the CA board will take it up, but you got to watch that date on the 14th. I don't know if you're going to make that date, are you?
We have another
position.
we have another meeting before then.
Is that the 8th? You have a meeting on the 8th? I hope.
I think so.
I'm trying
No, we have a meeting on the
Yeah,
13th.
The
13th.
Yeah.
So you're the night before this vote, their hearing on the 14th. So you would have to take a position then if you wanted to testify on the 14th. That's the point I'm making is this is kind of coming up quick.
I have a feeling we would be sending in written testimony because as of right now, they're not even allowing an advanced sign up or anything. So it's basically show up at the George Howard building and hope for the best. Hopefully you get called sometime before midnight. So I think we would be better to go on the written record to ensure we get it in. But anyway, let me call on Warren because we're not even making that decision yet. That'll be old business, and then I'll go to Bill, and then we still have the other bill to bring up.
Thanks for bringing this up. I didn't really know many details about it. It sounds like I still don't know a lot of details about it. I think we need to know a lot more before we can make a decision. It is new business, so it just seems. The way you've described it, Jonathan, it just sounds unfair, and I don't like that the county exec is making appointments rather than taking it out of the voters' hands.
Yeah,
that's where I stand right now.
And Sandy did email the link, and it's also embedded in our agenda tonight. So yeah, I would encourage everyone to take a look. Read the legislation for yourself. Pull up those maps. I literally at the education meeting, we were, pulling up maps and trying to figure things out, but it's very difficult to get a map that clearly overlies, county boundaries with legislative boundaries with, population statistics. And that's some of the stuff we were trying to figure out. And then we kind of said, if it's this complicated for us and we're like really involved in education, then what are we inflicting upon the voters? And that's when we gave up and said, why are we doing this? None of us are for this anyway. All right, Bill, did you have a comment?
Yes, real quick, please. I am almost always for power in the hands of the many, almost always against power in the hands of the few. 7 elected board members is power in the hands of the many voters. To go to 5 elected members and 2 appointed is to go from power in the hands of the many voters for 5 to power in the hands of a few, the 2 appointed. I'm 100% against this proposed legislation. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. All right, the other piece of local legislation is a bill that would affect only CA and the 10 villages. And this is about elections to the village boards and the Columbia Council. And this would require that candidates for board seats or CA seats would have to file reports of who is making donations to their campaigns or what disbursements they're making. They would have to file these reports to the Village Community Association. The Community Association would have to make the reports available to the public and would have to prohibit a candidate from taking office if they fail to file a report of donations and disbursements. So that's what's out there. And I'm just going to share my personal opinion on this one. I'm all for as much transparency as possible in elections. However, we are not government. We are actually private, independent businesses, private, independent associations with, members who, basically choose to fall under our covenants and therefore join our HOA when they, purchase or even rent here. So to me, this is an intrusion of government into private business that is probably unnecessary. If a village decides that this is best for the village and this is the way they want to run business, they're free to do this right now. But I don't see the need to require us to do this. There's no real provision for how we would do it, or how the county or the state would then compel a village association from from keeping someone from taking a seat if it feels that they didn't file a correct report or file a full report. To me, it adds more complexity. And it's going to make finding people who are willing to run for these things, which is already a struggle for a lot of villages, including ours this year. We don't have a full 7-member board. I think it's going to make it even more difficult. I think if voters really want to know what the candidates are up to, what money is coming in, what's going out, or if they have suspicions, they ask questions at forums or they vote wisely. So that's just my personal opinion on it. And the other thing is I don't like the way it targets only Columbia and the village associations. Any HOA is a 501c4. So why is it just us? Why doesn't it apply to every homeowners association across the state? So those are my thoughts on that one, just to introduce you to it, because I did some reading of that. Lynn?
Yeah, so just because I wasn't listening carefully and I didn't read it, I was just focusing on the one about the school board. It's for CA board members and village board members, both.
Yes.
To apply to.
Yes.
And the only reason that I can.
And the onus would be on the villages, because remember the villages run the election for CA. So the villages would all have to figure out some way of, getting these reports, I guess, validating them in some way, or you could just send anything in and then putting them out to the public.
Yeah, the only reason I could see for doing it is because the degree to which the CA board or the village board members, the village board as a whole, awards contracts. And if that's something where it would be a question of, just to be completely transparent, my brother-in-law does not run the construction company that's going to be building the bridge over Route 29, that sort of thing. But I don't know if that's what it's intended to do. And if so, why only Columbia?
Right. Bill?
Yes, all your points are very valid. I agree. Why just CA, the villages? Why not all HOAs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? I agree. And the mechanics of getting it done, and how would it work, and what would be the penalties, and who would have authority, et cetera, it's very difficult to determine. And getting all that done would take a lot of time, energy, and work. And for over 50 years, nobody raised the issue I think my personal opinion is that with a recent election where I feel a powerful entity with a lot of money try to get their representatives in its CA for my personal opinion purposes of developing some open space is why this bill has appeared. And if that eventuality were to occur, I think it would be very devastating for Columbia. The potential is there. Well-heeled interest can spend the money, get the slate, get certain parts of open space developed, et cetera, and we would all be at a huge loss. So I do feel in some way, shape, or form, the issue needs to be dealt with. I don't know whether this bill is the best way, but it certainly starts the discussion. And I think if we were aware of what happened 2-3 years ago, I think we'd be well served to look at this and maybe not back this bill, but certainly say, how do we prevent something catastrophic from happening potentially in Columbia? So I like the intent. I like that it gets the conversation started. This particular bill and the details, et cetera, might not be the best way. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Ginny?
Yeah, Bill is absolutely correct. That, I believe, is the reason for this bill. There was a lot of money, and according to Reverend Page Getty, 100 grand was spent on that election, mostly by a huge development company and a smaller one. So I think it's a matter of, do you want to know who's backing your candidates? CA elections, people have spent a lot of money on village board elections and CA elections. Some spent maybe a certain amount, but signs are rare. All the glossy stuff that gets sent out, that's expensive. So why? What's the motivation in backing certain people? What does the person expect to get the bang for their buck? And does the residents have a right to know? The problems are, how do you set it up? You're raising really a lot of good questions, but also it's such a short period of time when an election takes place. You don't want the disclosure to come after the election. The purpose of the disclosure would be to give residents that are voting the information they need to make a decision. They may think it's perfectly okay for a developer to spend lots of money on a slate of candidates. Great, okay. But how do you get that time factor is really, really difficult, is part of the problem. And also, if they don't do money, they just do in-kind services, like they pay for the signs, they pay for the mailings, but they don't actually give you, Jonathan, the money, okay? So you can fill on your thing, I didn't get the money. You also have to make sure that those services that benefit you are listed. It is complicated, I agree. But that, I think, is the real intent there.
Warren?
You guys make some great points. I think it's important to keep money out of politics. I think it's important that the elections be transparent, and but I don't think it's correct to put the onus on the village boards. I think it's going to cost money. And I think there's probably a better way to do it, or maybe the state, if they're going to do this and single out Columbia, they should provide some money to so that we can actually provide the reports and that sort of thing.
Okay, Sandy?
I think I see all the reasons, but I think it's tough because the village board in many cases are the candidates that are running themselves. So it's putting the onus on volunteer election committee members or the village manager. That's a tough one. I mean, you can't say, oh, it's the village board because you're the candidate. So you're not going to be regulating yourself in that election. And also it would have to have our village, and probably every village, have to get legal counseling to change our documents, which would have to then be voted on by the members of the association. And what if you don't have the votes to change your legal documents? Then how do you elect a board if they're not handing in their financial reports? So those are some tough things. So, it's easy to put it on paper, but in reality, there's not any great mechanism to make this happen.
Or anyone else? Well, Jenny, I have a request because, last year there was an HOA bill and CA ended up taking a position on behalf of itself and the villages. And then OMCA took a different position. And I would appreciate that if CA is thinking of taking a position on this and they're considering also taking a position on behalf of the villages, that they consult with the villages first and ensure that the villages want to be included. Because obviously we may or may not come out with a position on our own, but we certainly don't want to have a situation again where we're going to the state stating a different position than what CA stated on our behalf, which is exactly what happened last year.
Yeah.
Jenny, I think you're muted.
I remember that, yeah. I would suggest that actually you guys be proactive on this and send a letter to Lakey, because it was the council, I believe, that did that. So we only was finding out and let you know, and then I think this was the only board that really reacted quickly. So I would suggest that you consider a letter to Lakey saying, this is what happened last year. We don't want to see it happening again. Again, and more tactful than that, of course. But, and you CC the whole board.
Mhm.
So that, because we have.
And if we send a note to Lake, I don't even think we need to raise last year. I think we can just,
Okay.
respectfully state that we are considering this. We may or may not take a position, and would appreciate consultation with CA should CA consider taking a position on behalf of the villages, with the option to opt out of that, whatever position you're taking.
Yeah, and you keep in mind, the reason I'm saying CC the whole board, you do have new board members.
Yeah, but honestly, I didn't think this was a Lakey thing. I mean, if this is a policy position, wouldn't it start with the board?
We didn't know about it, remember?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that was, things were being done, never mind, we didn't know about it.
Okay.
Found out and asked what was going on, and that whole thing started up and you guys got involved and
Okay.
there was a lot apparently going on with the CA's, allegedly with CA's attorney down there. You could talk to the delegate.
Okay. All right. Well, Sandy, it sounds like there's enough interest in both of these topics that we'll bring them back as old business at the next meeting. For follow-up discussion and potential position. And at the next meeting, let's list them separately so we can take a position on each and it's clear what we're discussing.
Okay.
I think for now this was fine because they all just hit at the same time, but we should probably break them out for the old business so that when we take a position, it's clear what we did.
Okay.
All right. I think that's the end of new business. Took a little longer than expected, but there was a lot to absorb. We're on to old business. Maybe we'll make up some time here. So the first item was the county executive's first citizens budget hearing, our potential testimony. I still don't know whether we have a date for that hearing, but whenever it comes, we'll deliver that testimony. So Sandy has drafted something based on the new business discussion and the suggested revisions we made at the last meeting. So, maybe we can do a quick review of this, see if there are any last minute changes we want to make. I see one right there in the highlight because OMHS is 26, not 27.
That's why I highlighted it.
Okay. Yeah. Middle school is 24 and high school is 26. So there's one right there. But you want to just scroll through and highlight anything else that you changed or added or removed as a result of the new business last time?
I didn't really change much. I thought you want to look over the education before it's sent in, but I pretty much kept the Stevens Forest Road, but adding that there was an accident directly in front of Stevens Forest at dismissal time. Pretty much all that's the same. I did not put anything about the roundabout, but I have it here as, I mean, that's maintenance or not maintenance. That's an ongoing issue of something that has already been paid for. So I'm not sure it's a budget item. But that's why I don't know if you want anything in there as we're talking about the entire roadway.
I mean, I think any changes to the roundabout are a money item because it costs money
Yeah.
even to erect signs or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think we're going to have a little bit of time since we don't even have a date. I think somehow we're going to need to, well, probably make this a bit more succinct. I mean, it's definitely too long to be spoken in the time allotted. We can write for as long as possible, but we'll need to come up with a more succinct spoken version of this or we'll never get through it. I mean, just Stevens Forest Road alone will probably take our 5 minutes if we keep adding to it. So, maybe for the spoken thing, we can say, there have been accidents and including or crashes, including a crash involving a student along Stevens Forest Road from the roundabout, past Stevens Forest Elementary to Kilimanjaro. We have specific concerns in written testimony, and we're asking for a complete review of
Yeah.
safety and alignment of Stevens Forest, so something like that can be spoken succinctly, and then leave the rest of the detail for the written part.
The roadway maintenance, we were waiting for Ginny to let us know if that was an issue or not.
What is the Governor Warfield Parkway from Little Patuxent?
That's what you brought up last year. It had to do with the median
Oh, okay,
tree.
okay. Yeah, I was just wondering if that should be in our letter, that's all. I don't know what Wild Lake should be doing that, I think. Sorry.
But we didn't know if this was still an issue or not.
I don't know either, and I will definitely get you an answer on that. I apologize, but
Okay.
I think I would give some thought to just leaving
Also-
that.
Also,
And,
broken land would be Owen Brown, right?
Yeah,
no,
but
yeah,
we were,
but the
we were
last
told to
part,
put it in.
Governor Warfield Parkway from Little Patuxent, I would think would be a Wild Lake should be doing that.
Okay, well, we had it from last year because we were told.
Yeah, I
to.
know, I understand. It was the whole issue, yeah, but I think I'll get a hold of Bill Santos and see if he wants to deal with that.
Not
Okay.
every village might submit testimony, so this way, at least if we're doing it. And it's,
Wild Lake Alois one, okay.
Mhm.
the dead and dying trees, the 13 large trees that were removed to the entrance. 2 years ago, several trees removed from Thunder Hill Road, the gateway entrance to the center, now barren of canopy trees. We have not been informed of a timely replacement for trees. Despite voicing our concern, we again asked this year for a comprehensive, well-communicated tree replacement program. Leaving our once tree-lined trees bare of trees is concerning to the residents of Oakland Mills.
So before you move on from that, now that I think about it, now that I hear you read it out loud, we might want to adjust the language, especially the most concerning language, because we did actually hear from Chris when he came to the meeting. And he did hear our concerns. He did talk about, the limited resources and how he would try to reprioritize some things. So I don't want to make it sound like we know nothing and we've heard nothing from the, basically the career officials who are in charge of this, because we have. And we also know that they're very resource constrained. So I think we need to put more of the onus on the county through their budget process to give Chris and the traffic folks the money they need to replant these trees, versus saying we haven't been informed of anything, because he did inform us. I do feel he did inform us. We may not be satisfied with what he said, but his hands are pretty tied by his budget.
Well, we didn't hear about the removal of the trees beforehand. So I
Yes.
think that was kind of a shock.
Yes.
Or whether there was any attempt to see if they could be.
No, I'm more talking about like from most concerning on. We have not been informed of a timely
Okay.
replacement for the
Right,
trees,
right.
despite.
Yeah, he did discuss that.
Yeah.
And I share with you that we have a lot of things that we're kind of hammering on Chris about, about
Right.
all these roadway concerns.
I agree 100%. Yes.
We've got like what, 3? Stevens Forest, the roundabout, the HOA, a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
And now trees, I guess
Right.
median maintenance is coming up.
And vacuuming.
Leaf vacuuming, I mean, the
Right,
poor
right.
guy. He's probably drafting his resignation letter as we speak.
Yeah,
Can
but
I
if we
ask-
don't ask, then that's it.
No,
It's
no,
not
I
gonna
know, but
happen.
it's just, I think, kind of, kind of hammering on the one, I mean, I agree, I get it. It's just that it seems like an awful lot going to Chris.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question? This is
Sorry, I
Phyllis.
can't see everyone with the screen share.
Oh,
Sure.
this is Phyllis Gatson. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, quick question. I'm probably going off a little bit. I want to catch before the meeting is over. What, if you know, was the purpose of those crossovers on Oakland Mills? I mean, other than it being a crossover, am I the only one that thinks it may be two things about that road? Making that bike lane with all those leaves piled up in it makes it unsafe for bikers. And also, to me, come this winter, when the snow and ice hits those islands, I think they're another dangerous. I just don't think they were good ideas, good planning for those.
So the reason for the islands is because it was unsafe for pedestrians to cross Oakland Mills Road, and that's why they were put in. You're right about the leaves. I ride the bike lane. I rode it today, and they need to do something about that. And I've talked to Chris Etoff about that a lot. So he's aware of that's a problem. And again, this is a money thing. They don't really have the money to remove the leaves, although I have seen them run street sweepers through there once. And he's also mentioned that the snow removal on the pedestrian islands is also something they're trying to figure out.
Okay.
So you're right there as well. But the reason what was there is because one of the main reasons the traffic was too fast and the roads were too wide for people to safely cross as pedestrians.
I mean, I live there and I rarely see people cross. I mean, not that I'm there every day, but I think the islands are more dangerous than people waiting for the traffic, so it's not that bad.
Well, some of it depends on time of day because, I mean, if you're there the right time of day, people do cross because there are students at both Oakland Mills Middle and Oakland Mills High live on the other side, and they're all considered walkers because it's actually fairly close to the school. It's closer to the school than some parts of Oakland Mills Village.
Yeah.
And I know people that work at Wegmans and walk from that community, and they have a very hard time. They had a very hard time crossing the street.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying people don't cross. I just, islands and a car, I just see it. My eye is a little more keen to it because I'm at the corner of the traffic behavior at these concrete dangerous things that we put in our county, and we're supposed to be the safest county in America, as far as crime, but we're making it more hazardous. To me, we're making it more hazardous for pedestrians.
I respectfully, I disagree. Actually, making the road narrower and reducing lanes actually slows down traffic speeds, and that has been documented, and that is actually happening. So that does make the road safer for bicyclists and pedestrians. I still don't want to cross by foot, but as you say, but I think it is a little safer. Because speed limit signs don't slow people down. And one of the major problems with people coming out of any of the side streets is that it was really hard to make a turn because of the speeding traffic and the wide streets.
All right, let's go back into the Village of Oakland Mills in the county budget.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. I'm sorry too.
I put in here, wait a second, I'm unmuted. To ask that Oakland Mills be a pilot village for a neighborhood leaf vacuum removal program. And locally, Montgomery County, Village of Rockville and University Park have such programs. It's time for Howard County too.
Is that University Park, like south of College Park in Prince George's
Yeah.
County? Oh, I didn't even
Yeah.
know about that. And is there a Village of Rockville and a
Well,
City of
that's what it's
Rockville?
called. It's probably an incorporated village. I mean, I don't
Okay.
understand because it's part of Montgomery County, but it was in there as a
Okay,
program.
all right,
Hmm.
well, works for me. I never knew there was also a Village of Rockville.
That's what it said in there. Well, I don't know. That's what I looked up. I looked up Montgomery County leaf vacuum removal programs. I can double check, but I didn't make it up. Are you there?
Yep, we're here.
Okay, so I think when we get to Bland-Air, we can take a lot out. We've said all of that, a lot of it. But our ask is that they simply give us signage.
I thought that was already in the works. Didn't we get something back
Well,
saying that was in the works?
We've never seen any
Okay.
prototypes. We've never seen anything.
Okay,
I mean, it could have been in the works 5 years ago, but
Yeah, I
don't
would keep
see how long
asking.
it takes.
Yeah.
I would
But I
keep
don't need
asking
to
until
give
the
the whole
signs go up.
backfill of
Yeah.
it. I mean, they use our village for their benefit, but we get nothing out of it, basically.
no, I was just wondering if we can confirm that something is in the works, should we change what we're saying there? Instead of saying start this thing, it's more like finish it. If it's in the works, just do it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how we would change it, but I actually thought, was it Michael Harris? I thought someone at one of our board meetings spoke up during a resident speak out and said that there was actually something in the works, that something had been, signage had been funded or something, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I don't know. Ashley's here. I don't know if she has any information. Or if she could get us some.
I was going to say, I don't have any, but I can definitely find out for you all.
Okay, that'd be great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next one I've just left in as it was, the Orchard Green funding for the extension of the path along 108. And that was it from our last meeting.
All right.
And I can shorten up, definitely make the tree thing nicer. And information about the roundabout, but make what you're gonna say shorter.
Jonathan,
And
I have a
I can
question
make the
for
part
Warren.
shorter.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Warren, is the money really there for that county path? Right.
What Chris Singleton told me was he's expecting money, but I don't think it's in hand yet.
So that's the budget that was approved, that's effective now. Is that what we're talking about? One that was approved in May, the county budget in May, is that where the money's supposed to be someplace?
He said that he thought he was expecting national money to come in and that would be funding that.
Oh,
So he doesn't,
Oh.
yeah.
Is that like IRA money, the Inflation Reduction Act or something? I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what he
I
was
just realized we
expecting.
work with a lot of Chris's.
Yes, we do.
I mean,
Yes,
they're
we do.
spelled differently, but we work with a lot of Chris's.
Oh, we do, yeah. I guess that's the field they chose to go into. If
Yeah.
your name is Chris, you're gonna be in public works.
Yes, it's very confusing. Chris P, Chris Singleton, Chris
Yes.
Etoff.
Chris
Yeah,
J.
yeah,
Yeah.
Chris J, yeah.
All
Okay.
right. So Sandy, we'll do a little more just revision cleaning up and Warren, if you can find out a little bit more about that funding, because if it's something that's just going to pass through from the federal government, maybe it doesn't need to go in here, or maybe it does as a reminder. And Ashley, if you could find out about the Bland-Air signage, I just recall something. I might have to look back at minutes and figure out when it was said, but something stuck in my mind about something starting on that, although I
don't know,
haven't seen
think we
anything.
Get a lot of promises sometimes.
Yeah.
Hate to say that. Ginny had her hand raised and she's muted.
yeah, just that paragraph that you have in there on the tree issue on broken land.
Yeah,
Just cut that out and just send it to me. Thanks. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, you have it, Ginny.
Yeah, I know, but. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
You're
Jonathan,
muted,
you're muted.
Jonathan.
You're never muted.
Okay, back to the roads. We're going to talk about a specific stretch of Stevens Forest Road this time. So this is the stretch from basically the neighborhood center to Kilimanjaro Road.
I'm
and-
sorry. I'm back. Let me stop sharing again. Are we pulling up that letter?
Did I? Yeah, Stevens Forest Road comes before HOA roadways.
Yeah, do you want me to pull that up?
Go ahead.
Okay.
And what, Warren, did you want to take the lead on this one?
Wait till I pull the letter up.
Sure. So I don't know if you saw my note. I had a talk with the Chris Etoff, not Chris J. And he was very animated about including Chris in the addressing it to Chris. So Jonathan and I talked about that a little bit, and I think we agreed that we would include Chris, but actually put him in last as opposed to first.
So
in our-
what is that? Who the letter's going to?
Who the letter's going to, and
So who's it going to?
so the police should be
Okay.
first, I think, and I'm not sure who that would be.
Okay.
And then I would like to see, and Chris seemed to think that the Howard County Public Schools, and I'm not sure who a contact would be there, but put somebody in there. And then finally, Chris J.
For the Howard County Public Schools, my suggestion would be the area superintendent for the Oakland Mills cluster, and then copy the superintendent and the board. We're more at the staff level, we're more likely to get a response from the area superintendent than from the superintendent.
Okay.
Okay, that's good. I like this paragraph. So what we're saying there is we have, what's that?
Nothing, I coughed.
Okay. We have, we explained that there was I don't know how much of this we talked about before. Jonathan and I and someone from the Stevens Forest PTA witnessed in just like 15 minutes, people dropping their kids off and having them run across the street, and three times traffic was stopped. And a fourth kid actually just ran through traffic, and I was amazed he wasn't hit. And this was just in a 15-minute time frame, and this was on a bright sunny day. So this was pretty shocking. I think this captures that well. And then we and then I think this is pretty good. Here's the bulleted descriptions below. I like this one a lot, the traffic and pedestrian behavior. This is pretty well explained, I think. And I think it's good that they mentioned that the crosswalk does not have crossing guards across from the pool. I think that's a mistake. I think that should be brought up. And then we talk about the road design, and I think this is good. There is if you make a left off of Kilimanjaro onto Stevens Forest Road, you see the end school zone sign on Kilimanjaro. But then when you make the left, it just says speed limit 30 miles an hour, and there's no indication that you are in a school zone. So someone who speeds in that area could legitimately say that he's going 30 miles an hour because he did not see a school zone sign. And I think that's a hole in our signage. And let's see, and then the crosswalk, as we heard, it's if you're going southbound, that is hard to see. It's very similar. It's the same kind of thing as the problem with the circle further down. It's just difficult to see, and people tend to speed once they get past the school, and then they don't see the
Yeah, I
sign.
feel like they were reluctant to put that there in the first place. I don't know if Jonathan agrees with me. Like, there was a big push to get a crosswalk by the school. And they looked at the whole road and barely were they able to justify it there just because of the curves, the slope, the everything else. So we fought to get it there. And I think if it was not for us, they would have felt like it really even back then wasn't as appropriate, but they could justify it barely.
Right. No, and I actually stood out there one morning, actually a couple mornings, and talked to people. And a lot of the parents are afraid to send their kids across there because going southbound, people don't stop.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of concerns, and maybe it was something that made it not safe to begin with, and it shouldn't be there.
Maybe,
We
I don't
wanted
know.
it there years ago, but you know, it wasn't a. There
Or
was
maybe
no
it needs a
good
crossing
location.
guard.
I think it needs a crossing guard.
Because I
really
don't know if you've noticed, but they now, you know how we always say, oh, there should be flashing signs at the crosswalks, and they say no. I don't know if you've noticed it, but they now equip crossing guards
Oh
with
yeah,
flashing stop signs.
yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, I have seen that. Yes.
yeah.
And I agree. I mean, there are other, I know Anne Arundel County has lots and lots more crossing guards than Howard County does.
Yeah,
And
if there was one there, it would be good because the kids would be there and not dart across a few feet up at the school. If it was a
Right.
safer crosswalk.
I agree. And there are a lot of parents that just won't let their kids cross there
I
without,
wouldn't, yeah.
I wouldn't let my kids cross
Yeah.
there without me being there.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the final one, straight away. Right, and that's that. And I think this is pretty well said. Jonathan and I went over this using Google Docs, so it was
Yeah.
it was pretty easy and an effective way to run through it quickly. And we didn't want to provide solutions as much. We're hoping for a discussion because I think it's important, and I think Stevens Forest is getting more and more dangerous, and particularly when we're going to have the 7-Eleven come up. I think it's already bad. I think it's going to get worse. I think we need to do something.
Okay. So Jonathan, if you have the name of the Stevens Forest rep to send me.
It's in the
then-
chat. It's Dr. Johnson.
Okay, I can't see the chat while I'm doing this.
Okay.
But I can't copy the chat either, so if you just send it to me.
Okay.
No, not that one. I could find that. The Stevens Forest PTA person who's going to sign it.
Oh, hey, Maddie, you want to come off mute? It's not really Maddie. There he is.
Hey, I'm here. Couldn't figure out how to change the name for my kid. It's the last one to use us. It's Michael Elser, E-L-S-E-R. I'm Stevens Forest
Yeah, I
representative.
know who you are, but E-L-S-E-R and yours just on Stevens Forest PTA.
Yes.
So if you just send me, Michael, manager at Oakland Mills, your email, and then as I have a PDF, I can get you to actually sign it.
Absolutely. I'll send it to you now.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Mike, is there, I wasn't calling you out just to give your name. I could have given that. Is there anything you wanted to add to the discussion since we're doing this jointly?
No, I appreciate Warren's help and your help and the board's help in assisting with all of this. Certainly a concern. I know I've witnessed 2 accidents this year already, and we're not even in the winter time from driver stopping as kids started across the road and they were rear-ended. And fearfully, I think it's more a matter of time before someone gets hit, unfortunately. So I'm happy we're taking steps to try to solve that problem. So thank you to Warren and you, John, and the rest of the board to assist with us.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
I think I've mentioned this before. There's several guys on my on the public space that are they had kids at Stevens Forest, and they said, and one of them is over 40, that one of the kids, and they have had problems there since he was at that school. So this is an ongoing problem. It's just a very very particular to Stevens Forest. And the only solution that ever seemed to stick was when they parked police cars where people are dropping their kids off. If you park a police car there, then people tend to not want to park there and have their kids jaywalk across the street.
Even then, one of our accidents that I witnessed this year was a police car that got rear-ended, letting a kid cross the street. So even that has not been proven to work this year.
Okay. Okay. That doesn't give me hope.
I think Warren was angling for OMCA to buy him a black Charger. All right,
I think
anything
it's
else on
cheaper to
that
get
topic?
him a little flashing stop sign.
Yeah. I'm just gonna stand on the corner and point a hairdryer at people. Let them think it's radar.
There you go. There you go.
All right, anything else on that topic?
No.
Finally,
right.
I can pull up the other letter.
Let's send it over to Bill and the
Finally.
letter that Sandy's been waiting to pull up for a half hour.
Yay.
Yes, thank you. We had a draft of this letter in a previous village board meeting, and Lynn had voiced a few concerns about that. So based on those concerns, I rewrote this. So let me ask first, Lynn, what are your thoughts on this draft?
Yeah, I'm still, well, let me just say first, I thank you for going back and redrafting it. And I totally agree that that the HOA, that Holly Court finds itself in a really serious situation, that it needs to be addressed, and that as a caring community, we want to help our neighbors. And I really agree in the request to ask the county to come up with a plan that can be a pilot program, can provide a grant to HOAs that find themselves in similar situations. I still don't like the emphasis that the county caused this situation, because it simply isn't true. It was a transactional agreement in 1970 or whenever the Holly Court was built, and other HOAs, that it was an agreement between the county, the developer, the people who bought the houses and signed the HOA agreements. What happened, of course, is that between the time that the agreements were signed and people paid their HOA fees, knowing that they were going to be responsible for the roadways, that the cost of roadways has gone up, and the payments that were made by the HOA members to the fund to address maintenance concerns didn't go up sufficiently to do this. And it's kind of blaming the county for doing this. It was an agreement. These private roads exist all over Howard County. And as you say in the first paragraph, I guess, or maybe the second one, that that the people take care of their own. They do the snow. They do all of this at the that no other HOA has run into this and gone to the county to ask for help. That said, I don't think that means that we can't go to the county and ask for help, because it's definitely a situation that can't go on. So I think that the positive step, your last paragraph, but just take away that it's an unfair situation and the county is to blame and it's up to the county to fix it. Because there were a lot of players that created the situation. It's not really all on the county. And if that's done, I will vote to send this letter. If it still is about how, the mean county is unfair and it's an equity issue and the county needs to fix it, then I won't vote for it.
Do you want this one taken out too then, or changed?
Yeah, I don't think that's it's not a fairness issue, because other HOAs aren't saying, hey, county, we are paid taxpayers and you're not taking care of our roads. But it is in treating all taxpayers fairly. The deal was, the reason it was a transactional thing is that the developer could put more properties, could have more density because the roads were narrower, and that cost savings passed along to the original purchasers and continues to. I mean, areas where the HOA takes responsibility for the maintenance are still, I believe, by and large, that there's a price break with that. But nonetheless, it's that there are a lot of places to point fingers, and it's not the county. It's the county in part. Maybe they should have, 50 years ago, foresaw that this might be a problem if people didn't increase their HOA assessments sufficiently, that it would be a problem. But a lot of things happened in 50 years, and there are a lot of properties that are in this, a lot of private properties. A lot of people have shared driveways. On my street, there's a driveway that there are 5 or 6 houses on the driveway. Foresight was not there when Columbia was built and when the Columbia Association put in these shared driveways. And it's just something in the guidelines was that neighbors would get together and agree on how to pay for the driveway. Well, that doesn't always happen. You have somebody paving the part right out in front of their house, and the other people have rubble down the driveway. So it's, these are situations that occurred, but it's not an equity issue in my opinion, and it's not that the county is totally to blame. That said, I'm totally in favor of asking for the county to help come up with a solution and a way of financing when an HOA does find itself in distress in a situation like this, that the county can help come up with a solution and provide funds, whether through you came up with a couple of things, Bill, that were ways that this could be done through the county with grant programs or TIF programs or various other things.
So if that's, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bill.
Go ahead.
I was just say if that's the direction we're going, I'm fine, because I basically believe that this is, I think I've said this in a previous meeting, that this is kind of a public good issue. Regardless of how the situation got created 50 years ago, we now have a situation where the HOA collectively, cannot raise the funds to make the necessary repairs to these roads. And then it becomes kind of a public quality of life issue for everyone, because no single resident can take care of it, and collectively they can't, so everyone suffers. And that's usually where you ask government to step in. It's kind of economics 101. So I'm perfectly fine with that argument. I think if we're going to take that approach, then we also need to look at the second paragraph, because we're sort of talking about two different things. Snow removal, things like that, that's sort of like operating budget stuff. Road repair and resurfacing is more, like a capital expenditure. And if what we're really talking about is that big ticket item for which Holly Court couldn't raise the funds, the capital expenditure that required the supermajority, vote to raise HOA dues to fund that, then that's probably what we need to stick to here. Because otherwise I think this becomes a little bit confusing, because even from a county perspective, we're probably talking about different buckets of money when we're talking about things like snow removal versus a major resurfacing effort, which I think is what parts of Holly Court need at this point.
That's a good point, Jonathan. When I was reading it, I was wondering if the county might say, oh, well, we'll do the snow removal and call it our compromise. And I don't think that's what Holly Court wants. Um,
Let me add this in here. Holly Court volunteered for a pilot project. Holly Court has stepped up and said, here's our issue. But I'd like to defocus away from Holly Court in terms of big discussion. As I'd said in the past, that Leonard Vaughn, after he had been the Housing Commission, Director of the Housing Commission and Director of Housing Community Development, when we were on the transition team for Alan Kittleman in the Housing Department, Leonard Vaughn brought this issue up and he said, this is a countywide issue and that the county and CA need to deal with this because it will affect their property tax revenues. Also in Oakland Mills, we have 7 HOAs. Tarleton, the internal roadways are county-owned roads. The Emerson Hill, Emerson Hill has part county-owned roads and part HOA-owned roadways. Then the Holly Court, Shadow Oaks, the 2 Cinnamon Trees and Antaron, all their internal roadways are privately owned. So it affects a lot of HOAs in Oakland Mills and then throughout the county. Number 2, the issue of fairness, tax revenues, property tax revenues. A couple of years ago, pre-COVID, I spent a few hours going on the county's interactive map, looking at many different townhouse developments in the county. And what I did, I looked at the townhouses that were on public road, internal public road, and townhouses that were on HOA internal owned roads. And then I tried to do like for like, looking at the State Department of Assessment Taxation records, trying to find end of unit on the public road, end of unit on the private road, looking at the square footage of the lot, in first and second floor square footage, number of bathrooms, number of bedrooms, to try to find like for like, and then looked at the property tax assessment and looking to see if I could find some kind of significant higher tax assessment for the houses on the public roadway versus the assessment for the houses on the private road. And I couldn't find any. Over the last week or 2, I went and looked at Emerson Hill, same kind of comparison, private roadway, public road, difference in tax assessment. I couldn't find any, okay? So that there is that fairness issue that everybody's being taxed, but the taxes are being spent on some and not everybody. I spoke with a developer, I called a developer about this issue. And the developer said that the internal roadways are developed according to the subdivision regulations and the design manual. And as Lynn said, that when you do the private roadway internally, it can be narrower, that allows a few more houses to be built. And that the developer said that the county subdivision regulations design manual are what create the situation. And that he said, since the 1990s, DPW has made it known that they don't want that many public roads inside HOAs, that they want it to be private. And he said today, if I wanted to build an upscale townhouse development and I wanted all internal roadways to be public, I couldn't get it, okay? So that the county regs are why it exists, because 50, 60 years ago, the county could have put the regs in that all internal roadways everywhere must meet public road standards and must be public roads, and we wouldn't have this discussion. So the county regs do allow this to happen, okay? And my concern then is, okay, at the DPW, or sorry, the county is collecting property tax from everybody, but only spending it on some. And the developer said, hey, if you got a lawyer and want to work it, equal justice under the law might be an issue that you'd want to look at with this. But he said, it is what it is. It's there because of the subdivision regulations. So I don't have personally any problem telling the county, hey, your regs caused this situation. The county, the burden is on you to work to try to fix this. And as more HOA developments become 50, 60, 70 years old, more and more are going to have this kind of a problem. So I am open to whatever the board would want to go with on this. I do feel, though, that it is the county that has caused this through the subdivision regulations. Thank you.
Warren,
So, Bill, I got to thank, first I want to thank Lynn and Jonathan for so eloquently describing their stance on it. I agree pretty much with what they say. So my problem, I don't want to argue whether or not it's fair or not, but I think we need to have a persuasive, we're sending this to the county, right? And I think to tell them that it's their fault is not a persuasive argument to help them solve this problem. And I think we've already heard Chris say that he doesn't want to do this. He doesn't want to take over the private road and make it a county road. So I think we need a gentler letter to, and that's why I think we need to take the blame out of the letter so that they would be more receptive to trying to resolve this problem, because I think we do need to be good neighbors and deal with this as a public good issue and try to help out these HOAs, these aging HOAs that are having problems with their private roads. And that's.
Thanks.
I just have a.
Thanks, Warren. Wait a minute, Ginny has her hand up.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, in terms of the word grant in this letter, I'm not quite clear what that means. Compared to a loan, would they have to pay it back? Would it be, interest rates could make it very difficult, et cetera. I'm not sure what that means. The second.
Usually grants don't get paid back, loans do.
And if there's no matching fund for that grant, that sometimes is, so. I just think we need a little bit of clarity on, well, I guess that'll happen once the county starts negotiating as to whether they have to match it, et cetera, as well. The other thing is, I thought we discussed this quite a while ago about stormwater ponds on private property like HOA areas that the HOA was responsible for. I thought that was in the subdivision regulations, and I thought that was changed, or at least the county has taken over, is my understanding, some of the stormwater ponds. So I kind of equated the road situation as the same thing in terms of safety, health, et cetera. And it just seems like, we may want to be more tactful about it, but I tend to feel the county subdivision regulations did cause this problem. The developer had a good deal. He got more houses in there, and then he's gone. And I don't think people really realize the ramifications, the potential ramifications of something like this. So it's kind of, but I understand how you want to be tactful about how you do it with the county. But if stormwater, if they're actually doing that.
So before we stray into that, because it may be a separate issue, Bill, and I left you a message about calling me before the meeting, but we didn't connect. I did get a call from Michael Harris, and it sounds like the regulation might actually be a state level issue. I wasn't very clear, but he had asked me if we had looked into House Bill 1061, which didn't pass, but it was brought by Delegate Holmes from Prince George's County, and suggested you might want to get in touch with Delegate Holmes, because apparently something might have to be done at the state level before it can be done at the county level, but I didn't have the details.
Yes, that's the one that Alex Akimian has been working on. I think it was 1060 and 1061 that we had discussed.
Oh, that's right.
before.
That's from last year. That's right. We discussed
Yes,
it. Yeah, now it's coming back to me. Yeah.
They've been pre-filed. They're coming up again.
Right.
And Alex had told me, and Alex has got his hand up next, is that though public discussion hearings on those bills, no one spoke against them. People were for them. And I don't know if they have to pass before the county could do something. So Alex, you got your hand up. Let's hear from you, please.
Thank you. Just for clarification, yes, there was a bill in the last General Assembly along this line. And what this letter is actually doing is saying, let's do a pilot just to show how it could work in a particular county like Howard County. And Marvin Holmes, who's the delegate that introduced that bill in the General Assembly, said that would really be helpful to have firsthand experience on how this could work in one of the counties as a pilot project. So there is that relationship between what Bill drafted here, this letter to the county, and what the state is considering for the entire.
Okay, and now I recall, we actually spoke in favor of that. Now I recall, it was a little out of context. He kind of called me in the middle of the day while I was between meetings at work, so I couldn't I couldn't focus, but now it's all coming back. So here are my thoughts on the matter, because obviously we need to, bring this to some sort of closure, move on. It sounds to me like at least the majority of this board, if not every member of this board, supports putting something forward to the county, suggesting something that would get HOAs like Holly Court, and I know, Bill, it's beyond Holly Court, but we're talking about using Holly Court as a pilot. I mean, that's in the letter, some relief. It sounds like where the discomfort comes in is in, kind of diagnosing and assigning blame for root cause. And quite honestly, even if it's the county regulations that allowed things like this to happen, part of the thing that always concerns me is someone could go back to the 1970, find the smoking gun, where the developer and the residents at the time signed off on this and said, yes, we accept this. We accept that this could be what happens to us 50 years from now. Asphalt doesn't last forever, et cetera. And then where do we go? And a lot of that's moot. So I think we're talking about two things. If we're talking about what do we do to get relief to struggling homeowners associations that maybe don't have the economic base that they once did or thought they would when they developed, that's something we can put forth to the to the county, regardless of what got us to that point. Sort of like the county has programs for homeowners who are aging in place, and maybe they can no longer come with the funds to make all the repairs to the homes they need. So there are programs to get them some assistance. This could be that on a larger scale, and there is a corollary to that because the county has exactly such a program. If we're talking about regulatory changes to prevent this from continuing to happen, or even to erase what happened in the past, I think that's probably a whole separate issue at this point. And I think we're struggling to move forward because everyone agrees that the assistance is needed. Not everyone agrees on, the root cause and whether it needs to be fixed and what should happen going forward with new developments, which, isn't really an issue here in Oakland Mills because we don't have any new developments going in. So, my suggestion is if we want to try to do our best to get relief to communities like Holly Court as soon as possible, if we stick to the, regardless of how we got here, we have communities in distress. We can't have our neighbors in distress. We can't have our neighbors falling into potholes. Please help out the same way you would help out a homeowner who's having trouble keeping up. It sounds like we could all agree to something like that. If we, for lack of a better term, include all the other baggage, it seems like that's what we keep getting hung up on, because I feel like we've had this discussion a few times before, and that's where we keep getting hung up. It's not should the county help. It seems like everyone thinks the county should help. It's why should the county help, where we have some debate. So if the end goal is the county should help and we can just stick to
Right.
Holly Court and other associations need help, the county should help because these are Howard County residents and we can't have Howard County residents, living with inferior roadways, then I think we're good.
Jonathan, to get back to the legal issue, and I think it really is that in terms of what Michael Harris raised, he would be the one that can tell us why Howard County can't go ahead and just do this without state approval. So we can't answer that without a lawyer looking at it, but we really need.
And I don't even know if that's that might be for like the takeover or something. I'm not sure, but if Howard County wants to give someone a grant, they can figure out how to give a grant. You know, so if that's what we're asking for here to get it started, and if this would help support House Bill 1061 as a local example, then why not?
That's exactly my point. I don't think
Mhm.
we should be delayed waiting for the state bill to pass or not to pass.
Yeah. Okay, Lynn, and then Warren, and then
Yeah, just a couple of things. I agree with you, Jonathan. If we want to move this forward, we could argue about the wording of fairness and equity and all of that and root causes and not get anywhere if we want to move forward. So I agree with you that we need to keep in mind our goal. Our goal is to get help for Holly Court. Just to clarify though, Jenny, the county is not taking over stormwater management for private developments. That's all on the developer. So that's not a good, if we're gonna make arguments, that's not a good argument.
I thought they had taken over some HOA. They've taken over some CA.
Okay, CA maybe, but not private, not
That's
private
HOA.
development. That's all on the developer. But nonetheless, that's
I'm sorry,
that's
I
kind
meant
of
when
beside the point.
Yeah, I meant when the developer left and the HOA was responsible, I thought they had taken over some of those ponds.
Maybe some, but it's new ones, it's all on the developer.
Yeah, yeah.
And new HOAs, new subdivisions are being put in all the time with private roads. So the county is not saying they're not going to do private roads anymore.
No, I understand that. It's when they started having issues that the county, I understood, was taking over.
Yeah, but I think rather than trying to solve the problem for all HOAs and all private roads, that we should focus on Holly Court right now. And otherwise we'll be back here, you know, next meeting, the meeting after.
Yeah.
I agree. I totally agree.
well, and if this works and it's successful in Holly Court, then the effect will be it should be helpful to all other HOAs.
Yeah.
Holly Court happens to be the one that raised the alarm and happens to be our example for a pilot program.
Mhm. Yeah.
Lynn, that was well said. I have one question, Bill. Who exactly are we addressing this to? The
Chris.
letter.
That's excellent. Yeah, absolutely. And to this point, that we could have different discussion and opinions about who to should go to, but we've been dealing with Dr. Opal Jones and his staff. And I think that and he and his staff set up the presentation by Chris Jagarapu. And so I think that's probably where we should go.
Okay, that was my thoughts as well. That sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, will you be redrafting it since you?
Let me state this about that. I've done it twice and there's still issues with the language. My take would be it might be more productive if someone else refined the language. Okay, just so I'm not 0 for 3 or 0 for 4 and we spin wheels. That's
3 strikes and you're out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just being realistic about it.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
the only reason I put that in there about whose fault is it, okay, is the county gets a letter asking for the county to help solve a situation. And the county could say, well, why should I solve the situation? Okay, well, because you had a fair amount to do with it. Okay, if that isn't in my mind, if that wasn't in there, it's kind of like, why should we be part of the solution? We're not part of the problem. Well, yes, you are. However, I understand that in the letter, people don't want to say it that harshly and would want to take that out. I have no problem with that at all, personally. Okay, that's why I put it in there. So however other people would want to rewrite it is fine with me. Okay, but I'm 0 for 2. And I figure if I take a third stab, it'll be 0 for 3. So because I don't have the sensitivity that people are talking about. Okay, just being real, not trying to shirk my duty, but just being real.
Well, I'm happy to take a shot if you want, and Bill, I certainly wouldn't say you're 0 for 2, because if the goal is to win the game, you're winning. You might have won it with a triple instead of a home run, but you know, in the end, what are we saying? We want this program of grants, and the whole board agrees we want the program of grants. It's just how we get to that last sentence. So, you know.
Sure.
You
And
stand on third base and I'll try my best to do some revisions that'll, drive you home with the winning run.
that's right. Make it a single, a bunt, or a home run.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And Alex has his hand up here.
Just the last sentence, we were asking for a meeting with the county in early November, it says. We should probably change that to early December.
Well, at the rate this meeting is going, it'll be early November of 23 before we adjourn. So, no, yeah.
In terms of
Yeah,
timing.
we'll adjust accordingly. The other thing I was going to ask, since the board does to be of the consensus opinion that we support a program, and it's just a matter of the language in the letter that gets us to it. Unless we feel it's absolutely necessary, could we agree, since we've discussed an open meeting, that we'll circulate the next draft via email? If there's nothing, nothing substantial that needs to be discussed, we'll just kind of do the email, concurrence with the language of the letter, and we can get it out with another couple of weeks delay and another 15 minutes of back and forth. Obviously, if we don't, we'll have to discuss it in open meeting again, but hopefully we can bring it home if that's okay with all of you.
That's fine.
Okay. All right, I'll take a shot at it. Maybe while I'm in a turkey stupor, I'll see what comes out.
Jonathan, thanks for stepping up to that. And all board members, thanks for your contribution. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Let's see. In the interest of time, I'm going to forego a board chair report because I've actually talked about all the things that I was researching, the couple of pieces of legislation. So that's really the most of the update that I had anyway. Unless anyone has any questions for me about something maybe I forgot to update you on.
No.
All right, I'll send it over to Ginny then.
Okay, I get the message. It'll be short. All right. Did any of you read about Columbia Point being sold?
No, I knew it was on the market.
Okay,
They had contacted for a letter of compliance.
okay.
I don't know the outcome of their transaction.
Yeah, somebody sent me something today, but it didn't say, it didn't disclose who was purchasing it. And what, I don't know what that means for Oakland Mills, et cetera. Okay. So as I told you, the BOE bill and Jen's bill on disclosure will be on some of us will be pushing to have on the CA agenda for December 8th. The BOC, the Board Operations Committee, meets November 28th to discuss what will be on the December, January, and February agendas. So if you have any ideas of what topics you want covered and think we should be dealing with, please let me know before Monday. Grants are zero, as we discussed in the budget. We have two people that came in, two organizations, the Inner Arbor Trust and also Community Foundation of Howard County came in for asking for grants. But that's it. The other thing we'll be voting on December 8th will be the annual CA cap and assessment annual charge. There was a little bit of a discussion on that, and that staff was basically saying we shouldn't vote on that till February 23rd, or that's the date when we vote on the budget. I don't agree. My point is, you want to know what your revenue is. Part of how you know what your revenue is what the annual charge and the rate will be. So I think we should vote on it December 8th, and we'll see what happens. There's also some interest in increasing the capital budget or the operating budget to include an update on the watershed plan committee with all the issues we're getting on flooding, Lake Elkhorn issues, watershed issues, et cetera. And the tot lot study is another thing some of us want on the agenda. An update on e-scooters is another thing some want on the agenda. Oh, Sandy, I had a question for you. In the Capitol, did you get any feedback on the restrooms situation?
I know they've done all, they've sent plans and done, stuff for their cost analysis. I don't get any of that end of it. I know they've drawn up all the plans and redrawn plans, so they did all that, but I don't get any information past that. Because that's all now they are costing everything out, I'm pretty sure.
So are they going to get back to you with that and tell you whether it's going to be in the budget or not? or-
That's not, they wouldn't get back to me. They'd get back to the CA board.
Well,
I mean, that's part of your budgeting. I mean, we just said, yeah, these are the plans.
Okay,
We
I
are
don't-
okay with the plans, but they're not we've asked for it in the budget as our village request. So the next part is for the CA board to make sure it's in the budget.
or CA staff, I don't see it in here, so that's why I was asking you.
Yeah, so I'm surprised it wasn't asked at your meetings, but we've done our part as far as approving the design.
The capital is 11 million, and the only requests really are to add maybe another million for dredging Lake Kit, and look at continuing the investment in the Supreme Sports Club, a total about 2,500,000. That's about it.
So it might not be a capital funding thing if it comes in under a certain amount of money. So I guess Dennis would be the one to know that.
Yeah, well, as I told you, we are not permitted to talk to senior staff for the last year and a half, so I will send an email to Lakey and ask for that. Because I think you really still want that, right? And you're satisfied with the design?
No comment.
What?
It'll change the whole, I mean, yeah, a bathroom's nice, but it'll change the whole look and feel of the loft.
Because that'll
It
be in the
will.
back where we didn't want it to begin with.
No, it won't be. It will be in where the storage closet is, but now the whole back of the room on each side will be two large storage closets. So we'll take away about 30 or more seats. Our capacity will be reduced. I mean, they'll just change the whole look of the building, and there was no way around it. So for that, it's kind of sad because that room has such a iconic feel and look, and that will go away. And that's just the way it is.
Okay,
I mean, you can't have it all in that space. So to have it in that space, you have to give up space and the feel of that loft and the openness of the room and the beautiful ceilings and everything else. It will be different. And when you walk in the room, you're not going to see what you see now.
yeah, well, it was supposed to be at the other end, but I understand.
Wherever
that
it
that
has
is-
to be, they have to put storage in. And so if it was at the other end, it would have been actually worse because it would have been a bathroom in the ballroom. Now it's a bathroom in the storage area, but it means that they have to build two
Storage,
closets to accommodate the chairs and tables.
yeah, which still takes into the room. Yeah, I understand. Okay, I think that was about it. So, and I've already told you, I'm not going to vote for an increase in the annual charge at all. So that's about it. The budget hearings will continue. You can comment on December 10th. You can comment twice in January and twice in February. And if you have any topics for the agenda that you think we should be dealing with, please let me know before Monday. Okay. Any questions or?
So just searching the records, it looks like Grand Point, Columbia Point transferred on November 9th for $78 million to, this is a good one, 5764 Stevens Forest Road LLC. But I have no idea, what company that LLC actually belongs to, because actually the seller is not listed as Morgan Properties, even though that's who we know it was. The seller is Grand Point Apartments Owner LLC. So apparently all these big real estate companies just set up little LLCs when they buy and sell these big residential properties. But the new LLC is registered in Bethesda on Wisconsin Avenue, for whatever that's worth. And just to give you some idea, when Aimco sold it 6 years ago, it went for 47.5 and now
Wow.
it's sold for 78 million.
Wow.
Well, I think they put about 11 million into renovations or
Yeah.
something. That's still quite a profit in what, 3
Yeah.
years? 3 years, pretty good deal for them. And they did make a lot of very important improvements, the roof, the sliding glass doors, the pool, the parking lots, everything. So they did a very good job, I think, anyway.
I agree.
Whole interior, the gym, the marketing room, everything is really great improvement to what it was. It's really nice, so. but,
All right,
Okay, that's it.
Sandy. Oh, okay, Sandy.
I didn't realize we're our second quarter. I'm bringing the computer and financials to the bookkeeper tomorrow, so we should have everything back to vote on our second quarter financials by the December 13th meeting. We're planning the holiday events. We have holiday rentals coming up. Everything's running pretty smoothly at the other barn. We're gonna have a little staff get together at the building rather than go out to a crowded restaurant. So that'll be nice to have everyone get together and not just stare at each other on Zoom meetings. So we're all doing well, looking forward to a little Thanksgiving break.
All right, very good. Okay, committee reports. Lynn, anything architecture?
No, nothing from me.
Okay, education already covered the bill earlier. Warren, anything else in public space?
No, the only thing is there won't be a meeting in December, so our next meeting
Oh,
will be
Amy.
January
Amy, let me take it
17th.
Okay, Amy, I'll take it off of our e-news.
Thanks, Amy.
All right, thank you. All right, let's do a quick bulletin board before the closed session. Amy, anything from the office?
Well, just happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. All right, Ginny.
Just to give you an update on the jazz concert, Lavinia's last Saturday night was fabulous. She got more
Great.
more people than the coffee house has ever had. So
Oh, good.
yeah, she did a great
And
job.
hers is upcoming in Oakland Mills on
December
December 4th. So it's a buffet dinner, dessert, and concert. And we do have tickets left either online at Brown Paper Tickets or in the office when we're there.
Yeah.
Okay. Warren?
Just happy Thanksgiving. We're having my niece from Houston in so we'll have a house full of people all
That's
staying at
nice.
our house. I'm very excited about that. So
That's
Excellent.
happy
nice.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And my grandniece will be there too. She just turned
Sweet.
1.
That'll be
So
fun.
that's so exciting.
Jerome?
Nothing for the group, just happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Lynn?
Same. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right. Bill?
Same. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. That's it.
Sandy?
Happy Thanksgiving and happy 44th wedding anniversary to me and Ken tomorrow. That's
Oh,
a
happy
long
anniversary.
time.
Yay.
That is a long time,
Happy
considering I'm only
anniversary.
like 24.
Yeah,
And
how did
my
you pull
son
that
is
off?
home for a week, so that's another great thing. So it's my favorite holiday of the year. We're all
Excellent.
together.
All
So
right,
there,
I
happy
have nothing
Thanksgiving.
else other than to repeat happy Thanksgiving, happy anniversary to the Cedar Bombs. We do have on the agenda a closed session to discuss matters pertaining to employees and personnel. However, we do need a motion to go into closed session. Is there a motion to go to closed session? I see a motion from Bill. Is there a second? I see a second from Warren. All in favor of going into closed session? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, let me bring. I have started recording again because we're coming out of closed session. I'm going to, we don't have anyone in the waiting room, so there's no one to invite back in. So let's just see if Sandy comes back and then we can wrap this rather lengthy meeting. Thank you all for bearing with me. When Sandy and I were originally setting the agenda, I said, let's try to avoid new business. Let's take care of the old business and go into the holiday light, because we only have one meeting after that for the rest of the year. There's no second meeting in December. So we shouldn't set ourselves up for things we won't remember when we're all back in January. And then like these two pieces of surprise legislation hit, the controversy over the CA president. And next thing I know, we have this agenda. Sandy, welcome back. We are out of closed session. The reason for our closed session again was to discuss matters pertaining to employees and personnel. The outcome of our closed session was that the board reviewed OMCA personnel in preparation for the next quarter of our fiscal year after the holidays. And with that, if there are no further items of open business, and I see none, we will adjourn. Thank you all very much and have a good evening.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Good night.
Good night.